Walter, I don't believe that that part is appropriate. This is Walter, and this is his roadmap to success. Now, he's a Mayday rescue dog, like I mentioned in the first video, and I think all the videos. And so he was found, he's a street dog. And so dogs, especially street dogs in Los Angeles, really have to come up with a lot of good survival techniques. And a lot of times, you know, it's being aggressive to defend territory or resources. And so he might have had people that try to rescue him and he didn't interpret it the wrong way, or people that were shooing him off his lawn and maybe that's where he had his food kept or whatever, he's eating somebody's cat food. We don't know what it is, but he's developed a barking habit. Now the video above will go over how we can teach him how to be quiet, but I think a lot of it is based on, oh, this little thing when he puts his paw on top of you, like he was just doing, if you're petting him and he puts his paw on top of you, that's a dominance move, so immediately stop petting him. So basically we went over ways to shift what I call the leader-follower dynamic. We incorporated some rules, and I went through the escalating consequences. The guardians can actually use those to disagree with unwanted actions and behaviors. We also went over ways to use positive reinforcement and add structure. The enforcement of the rules is a good way for the dog to see us acting as a leader in terms of correcting them. But petting with a purpose and passive training are great ways to give the dog an incentive to want to listen to us because there's a reward for doing so. And also by passive training, every time that he comes to me, I pet him and say, come. Well, then when I ask him to come and give it to him as a command word, he's more inclined to do it. Now, if I give a dog a command, I actually say it twice. Say he was standing right now, I would say sit when he sits, then I pet him and say, or give him the treat and say sit after. So I say it once during the command stage and then once during the reward stage. Now, if I'm doing passive training and he comes to me, I'm just going to pet him and say come. If he lays down, I pet him and say sit. If he lays down, I pet him and say crash or beg. You got a good beg. Can you beg for us when we're on the couch? No. It's like, you're lucky I'm not biting you right now. Let me see. We went over some watchwords. So if we walk in the room and see someone is petting the dog and the dog isn't doing something, is standing up, we say paycheck. That just means I suspect that you may have forgotten to pet with the purpose. Or if we see the dog did something desirable and our partner didn't see it, we just say reward. I look at the dog and I just pet him and say sit. Whatever he happens to be doing at the time is what I'm going to say. Is everything going okay over there? Mm-hmm. All right. And so passive training is just really, again, highlighting and rewarding him for the things that we want him to do. The more that we do that, the more he should start engaging in those behaviors. Some of the rules we went over is not being allowed on the furniture. Sorry, Walter, this is the last time you're going to be on the couch for at least a month or as long as these problems are still going on because this becomes a privileged position. Now, or it is a privileged position. This is not a right, this is a privilege. And if you're not going to behave well, then you're not going to get it. Now you see, we hear the beeping in the driveway, and that's something normally he would bark at, but I'm giving him a motivation and a distractor to pay attention to this instead of that. I'm down to my last little bit. Redirecting him through a focus exercise is something we also went over. And if you forget how to do that, make sure you let me know. The focus exercise, I'd like both guardians to do that with him. Well, since we have 2 dogs, really 3 with the Mayday temporary dog, maybe do it with each dog twice a day. And sprinkle it throughout the day. Don't always do it here or do it in different locations. And at first it's 1 second, 1 second. Then after a while, when he's staring at the whole time, then I go like this, and I go, give him a look here, then I go back here, and he looks up at me, and then go 1 second, 2 seconds on the second movement only. And then eventually it gets to the point where the second, you go 1 second, 20 seconds. And you're able to keep his gaze here. Remember when you're doing the focus exercise, do it when there's nothing going on at first. And eventually we want to do it while, get up to the point where we can do it 20 seconds in the house without any problems. Then what we want to do is we want to practice it right outside the front steps, sitting on the front steps when there's nothing going on in the courtyard or in the driveway. So that he gets used to doing that in a different capacity where there's sights and sounds and smells. Once we can get back up to 20 seconds, you can move a little bit faster at that rate. Then you want to start doing a walk when there are no other people around. And you're doing this now while we're walking. So if he's walking on the right side, I'm going to hold the treat, go like this, and then say focus when it goes into his mouth. So now we're getting him to focus at us on a walk while he's moving forward. And eventually you get up to the point where you can do it for 20 seconds. So if you see a dog coming down your street, as soon as you see the dog, before he sees the dog, or even if he sees it, you say focus, he looks up at you, the other dog's walking by, and he's looking in this direction. And then once the dog passes you, you pop the treat in their mouth, and he's like, all right, I got to finish chewing this, and then yell at somebody. And then by the time he turns, the other dog's walking away. So he doesn't have a reason to bark at them. He barks at them because they're approaching or getting close to his territory. And again, a lot of these are a result of him having the perception that he's the leader, he's in the leadership position. The more we enforce rules consistently within that 3-second window and reward him within that 3-second window, the more he sees us acting like a leader. So some of the rules we went over, he has to sit before we let him in or out of the door. Go to the door and say sit once. If he doesn't sit, walk away from the door, wait 1 minute, and then after 1 minute, go back and tell him again, sit. As soon as he sits, open that door and let him out. If he doesn't sit within 2 or 3 seconds, I walk away this time for 2 minutes, next time for 4 minutes, next time for 8 minutes. So each time he doesn't comply, he has to wait twice as long before you're generous enough to give him another opportunity to comply. Not being allowed on the furniture for a month. At the end of the month, we're going to invite him up with an invitation only and only for good behavior. So if he's up here on the couch and he started barking, you have to get down immediately. If we do that within a 3-second window with enough repetition, he realizes if I'm up here and I bark, I lose the privilege. But I like the privilege, so I'm going to abstain from barking. Another rule would be there's normally a table right here. He's not allowed to be within 7 feet of the humans who are eating at this said table, or at the table over there. Another rule would be not being allowed to be in the kitchen while we're preparing food or when the other dog is eating. We're going to add structure to mealtime, so the dogs are going to eat one at a time, but only after they see the human eat first. Now for feeding, what I do is I go in the kitchen, I would feed put both bowls in the kitchen, don't put them together. Put them in different areas. But Lorenzo eats first, correct? Mm-hmm. So he's the original dog. So I would invite him in to eat first. I would use the second and third escalating consequence to prevent Walter from going in the kitchen. So Lorenzo goes in, his bowl should be closest to the doorway. When he gets done eating, here, buddy. When he gets done eating, you gotta come and get it yourself. There you go. When he gets done eating, then he has to leave the area. Now, if he leaves some food left in his bowl, we pick up his bowl, we dump the food out, and so it's an empty bowl, and put the empty bowl back on the floor. So when he comes in the room, he goes to Lorenzo's bowl, go and knock yourself out, there's nothing left there. Then he goes to his bowl and eats. When he takes his first bite, say grub, chow, feast, comida, whatever the word is you want to use to assign it for him to eat. Each dog should have its own command word. So eventually you can be sitting here, the food is in the kitchen, they're waiting outside the kitchen, you say grub for one of them, and he goes in, he comes out, and you say feast, the other one goes in. It's pretty cool when you get that. But that helps them develop more self-control, and also you're the one controlling the resource. Same thing with controlling the access to the couch. The more that you do that, the more that he sees you as the leader, and the more that he will respect you as a leader. Let me see, don't walk around him, walk through him, unless he's asleep or on the floor. But if he's standing in your way, don't defer. Leaders don't defer to followers. Walk through him so he learns that when a human comes, I need to move out of the way. Now, one of the things I promised to go over that I forgot to go over in the session, I'm going to go over in this video right now so the guardians can remember it, is when guests come over. They don't have a lot of guests come over, and he doesn't know how to behave with guests. So what I would do is I would find some guests that you can have come over that will listen to your direction. A lot of people are like, I'm an expert. I've had a dog before. I know what. Your dog bit me. Why did your dog bite me? Because you didn't listen. So make sure the person listens. Put him in a position to succeed. Do this after he's been to Bonjour or, Pour La Pooch or whatever daycare, where he's got a lot of walks, so he's got that energy on him. So what we want to do is, when you have a guest come in, we would have him on a leash. And I'd have him about at least 10 feet away from the door. Have your guest come in, give your guest a couple of treats. What your guest should do is, I mentioned this is confrontational front-facing, this is sideways, is more approachable. So if Walter is over there, I would have the guest come over and turn facing this way or this way so that Walter is on his right or left side. The person should then crouch down. Height is more authoritative, and also front-facing is a challenge. So if we turn sideways and then we crouch down, we're not as confrontational to the dog. Then what I did is I took the first treat and I tossed it, and I didn't look at him, I just tossed it in his direction, and the guardian let him gobble up the treat. After he did that about 2 or 3 times, and after I did that about twice, then I started telling him to sit. When he sit, then I tossed the treat. I did that for about 2 treats. Then I told him to sit, and when he sat, I let him lick it off my hand, and as you notice, I'm keeping my hand here. So they should do this if there's in a position here and Walter's there, so they should offer the treat in their left hand, not looking at him, and once he licks it up off their hand, they should keep their empty hand there. Don't move the hand quickly. Quickly might provoke a bite, but if you just leave the hand static, the dog will often come back a second time. Did I miss some treats? He didn't, but he will get a little bit of a residual scent and smell and taste from licking the hand again. This way we can give 2 or 3 more treats this way. He's a lot more relaxed. And then once he's nice and relaxed, then the next step is I would actually go out with him for a walk. So at first, you keep him on the walk. I would use the special twist of the martingale, and then walk like one house down, and with the dog in between the people. It'll depend. It might be more than one house, it might be a couple, but we want to do it to the point where he's just kind of walking relaxed. Now, if his tail goes, the tail is parallel with the spine, which is obviously is what we're looking for. Come here, buddy. Come up here. Well, you have to get it for yourself. I'm not going to cater to you. There you go. When the tail is like right here, when the tail's up, that's more authoritative and commanding. When it's parallel with the spine, that's what we're looking for. So when you see his tail go parallel, have the dog in between you and your guest. Very subtly, just hand your guest the leash. And then continue walking for another house or two. And then you just stop and let the person go with your dog to the corner. So I went to the corner, I sat down, at that point he was relaxed. I, told him to sit, gave him another treat. I sat down on the curb myself, asked him to sit again, gave him another treat. I offered my hand. I didn't try to pet him though. And this is something you should tell your guests, not to try to reach over and pet him. A lot of people think I'll pet the dog to teach the dog that I'm a good, friendly person. But if the dog is not comfortable with you, it doesn't want you to touch him. Actually, not touching them shows that you are respecting their personal space and will help the dog feel more comfortable. And then have the person come back with the dog. Dogs learn to get over things by literally moving forward. So if we can get the dog used to when a person comes over, right now when a person comes over, he's segregated behind the baby gate. Crash. And dogs look at that as a punishment because I'm excluded from the group. Well now, if every time a guest come over, I get to go out for a little bit of a walk and I get a bunch of treats from this guest, after a while I start developing a positive association of the guest. Just like if we go to Grandma's house, Grandma has a lot of cookies and treats for us and candy bars. Well, Grandma wants to make it a very enticing place so that we want to come back. Now right now, if I give him the treat for barking, that would be kind of akin to the video above this, but I can use this to redirect his attention. Now, my bag got lost with the airline, so I only have a very limited amount of these treats. The treats that I use are called Tricky Trainers Soft Chicken Liver Flavored Treats. You can get them on Amazon. I've worked with 2,500 plus dogs. I've only crossed with one that it wouldn't take the treat, and that was because we were on a set and they were shooting blanks off guns, and it was just too much for the dog to deal with. Every other dog loves them. And you can see he's really into it. Even though we have sounds going outside, I'm easily able to redirect him and keep his attention here. Now don't let him jump up on you because this is usually it shows a little bit of a lack of respect. So I'm going to kind of redirect him down. There we go. And then I'm going to let him chew and nibble on it. Focus. Now this one I'm doing something a little bit different than the focus exercise. I'm letting him nibble on it, but he's looking at me in the face while he's doing it. Right? This is my last treat, and we have a little kid outside, and that's a lot of excitement for you. No, actually, I do have one more. But you see, just by redirecting his attention, we're able to keep him here instead of going for the kids. Now, there's one last technique that I'm not going to go over in this video, but if the barking continues, let me know, because there's a technique called counter conditioning. And I've stopped a lot of dogs from barking when doorbells ring or knocks the door or people walking by. And so if the barking continues after about 2 weeks post the session, make sure you let me know and I can share you a link to the video for counter conditioning, which will stop him and create a positive association. When he hears a sound outside, he'll think that means just something good's happening, not anything I have to bark at. But I really think the more that the guardians enforce the rules and boundaries and structure, combined with rewarding him for desired actions and behaviors, they're going to flip the leader-follower dynamic. And he's going to start listening to them instead of feeling it's his job to protect them from the outside world. Right, Walter? Well, this is Walter's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.